Fleet Commander Jai-Ho's hands trembled as he watched the last transmission from New Eden Colony. The Vorkath bioships descended like a plague of locusts, their massive organic forms blocking out the binary suns. Through the grainy footage, he witnessed thousands of colonists running for shelter as the enemy vessels released their digestive compounds. The buildings, trees, and even the ground itself began dissolving into organic soup that the ships absorbed through massive feeding tubes. "Commander, we're receiving the final death count from New Eden," Lieutenant Park reported, his voice barely a whisper. 30 million civilians. No survivors. Jai-Ho slumped in his command chair aboard the CSS Vigilant. In just 3 years, the Vorkath had consumed 12 major worlds in the Centauri sector. His ship, once part of a proud defense fleet of 300 vessels, now drifted alone in the darkness of space, the last guardian of a dying sector. "Plot a course to the Rigel system," Jai-Ho ordered. "We need to warn them before." "Sir," Park interrupted, his eyes wide at his sensor display. "Massive object detected at bearing 227. It's bigger than anything in our database." Jai-Ho moved to the sensor station, studying the readings. The object was cylindrical, nearly 20 kilometers long. Its hull was made of an unknown alloy that seemed to absorb their scanning beams. "Magnification times 1,000, Jai-Ho commanded. The main viewer zoomed in on the mysterious vessel. Its surface was covered in strange markings, some sort of writing system they'd never encountered before. But what caught Jai-Ho's attention was the massive damage along its port side. The gash revealed countless rows of chambers, each containing what appeared to be preservation pods. "Life signs?" Jai-Ho asked. "Millions, sir, but they're in some sort of suspended animation. The power readings are minimal, just enough to maintain basic life support." As they continued scanning, Park managed to decode some of the ship's markings. "Sir, I think I found something in the ancient archives. These symbols, they match records from before the Great Migration. They're human." Jai-Ho's breath caught in his throat. Humans were considered mythical beings, a species that had vanished from known space over 1,000 years ago. Some believed they had destroyed themselves in a massive war. Others thought they had ascended to a higher plane of existence. But here was proof. A massive colony ship carrying millions of them in suspended animation. Before Jai-Ho could process this discovery, the ship's warning systems blared to life. "Vorkath vessels detected," Park shouted. 3 bioships on an intercept course." Jai-Ho watched as the massive organic ships approached, their tentacle-like appendages writhing in anticipation of their next meal. But something unexpected happened. As the lid bioship attempted to attach itself to the human vessel, its feeding tubes recoiled violently. The ship's biological mass convulsed as if in pain. "Sir, the Vorkath ship, it can't process the human vessel's hull. Something in its composition is toxic to them." For the first time in years, Jai-Ho felt a glimmer of hope. If they could understand this technology, they might have a weapon against the Vorkath. But before they could investigate further, the ancient ship's systems began to power up. Lights flickered along its massive hull, and energy readings spiked. "Commander," Park's voice was filled with awe. "The preservation pods, they're beginning to activate. All of them." As Jai-Ho watched the massive vessel come to life, he realized this wasn't just a relic from the past, it was humanity's return. And based on the weapons systems his scanners were detecting, these humans hadn't been sleeping peacefully. They had been waiting. The first pod opened deep within the ship's core. Inside, a human military officer named Captain Lee opened his eyes, his enhanced muscles and cybernetic implants ready for the war they had prepared for centuries ago. He would soon discover a different war awaited them, one where humanity would become the galaxy's last hope against the terror of the Vorkath swarm. Jai-Ho sent an emergency broadcast to all remaining free worlds. "This is Fleet Commander Jai-Ho of the CSS Vigilant. We have found them. The humans have returned, and they came prepared for war." Supreme Commander Yongha stood on the living bridge of her flagship, the neural throne pulsing beneath her feet as it connected her directly to the bioship's consciousness. Through this connection, she felt the confusion and pain of her advanced ships as they tried and failed to consume the human vessel. "Most unusual," she muttered, her gray skin rippling with patterns of frustration. "In 3 centuries of conquest, we have never encountered a material our digestive enzymes couldn't break down." The human ship hung in space before her, its hull gleaming with an almost defiant brightness against the backdrop of stars. Her own vessel, a massive living construct of organic technology, dwarfed the ancient craft, yet something about it made her uncomfortable. "Analysis complete, Supreme Commander," her chief biologist reported. "The hull appears to be composed of a molecular structure that actively repels our digestive compounds. It's as if they designed it specifically to resist us." Yonha's facial tendrils twitched. "Impossible. These humans vanished long before our emergence." She ordered her ship to extend a boarding tendril, a more conventional approach than their usual method of consumption. The organic tube attached itself to the human vessel's airlock, creating a sealed passage between the ships. "Boarding party, proceed with caution," she commanded. These humans were known for their treachery. Through her neural link, Yongha watched as her warriors, beams of semi-solid biological matter, flowed through the connection tube and into the human ship. The interior was dark, illuminated only by emergency lighting that had somehow survived centuries of dormancy. "Supreme Commander," one of her warriors transmitted, "we found the main storage chamber. You need to see this." Yongha's curiosity overcame her caution. She left her neural throne and made her way through the connecting tissue to the human vessel. The smell of ancient metal and preserved air assaulted her sensitive olfactory organs. The storage chamber stretched before her, seemingly endless rows of cryopods lining the walls from floor to ceiling. Each pod contained a human, perfectly preserved in some form of stasis technology far beyond anything her species had encountered. "How many?" she asked. "Initial estimates suggest over 1 million pods in this section alone," her warrior responded. "And this is just one of 12 similar chambers." Yongha approached one of the pods, studying the human within. Unlike the soft, weak creatures they had found in historical records, this being was different. Cybernetic implants were visible beneath its skin, and its muscle density suggested significant genetic enhancement. "These are not colonists," she realized. "These are warriors." Her suspicions were confirmed when they discovered the weapon storage units, rail guns, quantum torpedoes, and other devices of destruction she couldn't even identify. This wasn't a colony ship, it was an army in hibernation. Before she could order her warriors to begin destroying the pods, an alarm echoed through the ancient vessel. Pod after pod began showing signs of activation, their status lights changing from dormant green to active blue. "Supreme Commander," her biologist called urgently. "The ship's power core is reactivating. These humans, they're waking up." Yongha watched in growing horror as the first pod's cover began to slide open with a hydraulic hiss. Inside, a human male's eyes snapped open, his cybernetic implants glowing with awakened power. "All forces, retreat to the ship," she commanded. But even as her warriors began flowing back through the connection tube, she knew this discovery would change everything. The Vorkath had ruled through biological superiority, consuming all who opposed them. But these humans, these enhanced warriors from the past, had somehow known to prepare for them. As her ship detached from the human vessel, Yongha watched more pods beginning to activate. For the first time in her long life, she felt something alien to her species: fear. "Send word to the High Council," she ordered as they retreated. "The humans have returned, and they are not what we expected." Behind them, the ancient ship's engines flared to life, its weapon systems powering up as millions of enhanced warriors began awakening from their long sleep, ready for a war that had waited centuries to begin. Captain Hadwan's eyes opened slowly, adjusting to the dim emergency lighting of his cryopod. His cybernetic implants activated first, feeding him vital information about his body's condition and the ship's status. Thousands of similar pods lined the walls of the ECS Prometheus, each containing an enhanced soldier like himself. "Status report," he croaked, his voice rough from centuries of disuse. The ship's AI responded immediately, its holographic interface materializing before him. "Captain, ship systems are at 89% efficiency. We have detected hostile biological vessels in the vicinity. Current date is significantly beyond projected awakening timeline." HFY stepped out of his pod, his enhanced muscles adapting quickly despite the long sleep. The neural interface in his brain connected with the ship's systems, flooding his mind with tactical data. Around him, other pods were opening, releasing soldiers who had been specifically engineered and trained for humanity's darkest hour. "How many hostiles?" he asked, making his way to the command center. His armor, a self-repairing nanofabric, adjusted to his body as he walked. "3 large biological constructs," the AI reported. "They appear to be attempting to consume our outer hull." Through the ship's sensors, HFY observed the massive organic vessels attempting to break down their hull with digestive enzymes. He smiled grimly. The molecular bonded armor had been designed to resist exactly this kind of attack. "Wake up, Beta Squadron," he ordered, "and power up the main weapons array." The ship hummed to life as more systems activated. In the weapons bay, railguns charged their magnetic accelerators, and quantum torpedoes began their initialization sequence. These weapons had been created to fight a war that never came. Now they would serve a different purpose. Lieutenant Song arrived at the command center, her cybernetic eyes glowing as she interfaced with the tactical systems. "Sir, Beta Squadron is combat ready. The enemy vessels are making another attempt to breach our hull." HFY watched the tactical display as the Vorkath ships positioned themselves around the Prometheus. He could almost feel their frustration as their biological weapons failed to penetrate the ship's defenses. "Target their central mass," he ordered. "Fire when ready." The rail guns spoke first, their hypervelocity rounds accelerated to near-light speed. The projectiles tore through the Vorkath's biological armor like paper, leaving massive holes in their organic hulls. The enemy ships recoiled, their living tissue writhing in pain. "Quantum torpedoes, full spread," HFY commanded. The advanced weapons launched, their warheads designed to disrupt matter at the subatomic level. When they detonated against the Vorkath vessels, entire sections of their biological mass simply ceased to exist. The remaining Vorkath ships attempted to retreat, but HFY wasn't finished. "Pursue and eliminate. Show them what humanity is capable of." The Prometheus's engines, powered by contained quantum singularities, propelled the ship forward with impossible speed. More weapons fired, each shot precise and devastating. The Vorkath had never encountered anything like this, weapons that could bypass their biological defenses, technology that resisted their consumption. Within minutes, the battle was over. Where 3 mighty Vorkath vessels had been, only drifting organic debris remained. "Signal detected," Lieutenant Song reported. "It's from a nearby vessel, non-Vorkath." They're cheering, sir." HFY opened a channel to the ship, and a face appeared on the screen. An alien commander named Jeho, who looked at them with a mixture of awe and hope. "The legends were true," Jeho said. "Humanity has returned, and you're even more powerful than the stories claimed." HFY nodded grimly. "We slept while the galaxy changed, Commander Jeho. Now tell me about these Vorkath. Tell me everything." As more pods awakened throughout the ship, releasing thousands of enhanced soldiers into a changed galaxy, HFY realized that humanity's long sleep had ended at exactly the right moment. They had prepared for one more, but fate had delivered them to another, one where their advanced weapons and enhanced abilities would save not just humanity, but all sentient life from the Vorkath threat. "Send word to the other sleeper ships," he ordered. "Tell them it's time. The galaxy needs us now more than ever." Admiral Sunmay stood before the holographic war table aboard the ECS Athena, watching as green dots appeared across the galactic map. Each dot represented another human sleeper ship awakening from its centuries-long slumber. The sight filled her with pride and purpose. "The Zeus has made contact in the Orion sector," her tactical officer reported. "Their assault troops have already liberated 3 Vorkath-controlled worlds." Sun Mi nodded, her cybernetic eyes processing the incoming tactical data. The Zeus carried the finest planetary combat forces humanity had ever produced. Soldiers enhanced with cutting-edge genetic modifications and powered armor suits that could level entire cities. "And the Ares?" she asked, though her neural link had already provided the answer. "Engaging Vorkath fleets in the Carina sector. Their space combat specialists are proving extremely effective." On the holographic display, she watched footage from the Ares battles. The specialized Void Warriors, trained to fight in zero gravity and equipped with personal quantum weapons, were devastating the Vorkath's biological ships from within. They would breach the living hulls, plant quantum charges in vital organs, and escape before the ships imploded. A communication request flashed in her neural interface. "Admiral, Commander Jaiho's fleet has arrived with representatives from 12 formerly subjugated species." The alien commander appeared on the main screen, accompanied by a diverse group of beings. Some were mechanical, others biological, and a few seemed to exist as pure energy. All had suffered under Vorkath rule. "Admiral Sunmay," Jaiho began, "my allies have brought their remaining military forces. We wish to join your resistance." Sunmay studied the tactical data on their ships and capabilities. While their technology was different from humanity's, it could be effective when combined with human strategic doctrine. "Commander, your timing is perfect," she replied. "The Athena carries our best tactical commanders and strategic AIs. We'll integrate your forces into our battle groups immediately." Over the next several hours, Sun Mi coordinated with awakening human ships across the galaxy. The Hyperion, carrying advanced medical units, was treating victims of Vorkath biological weapons. The Apollo, with its scientific cores, was analyzing Vorkath weaknesses. Each ship had been designed for a specific military purpose, and now those specializations were becoming humanity's greatest asset. "Admiral," her tactical officer interrupted, "the Vorkath are massing a counterattack. Largest fleet we've seen yet." Sun Mi smiled. This was exactly what she had been waiting for. "Send word to all ships. Execute Operation Prometheus." The plan was elegant in its simplicity. As the Vorkath fleet gathered, human ships appeared in carefully coordinated positions around them. The Zeus ground forces deployed as boarding parties. The Ares Void Warriors struck from stealth positions. The Athena's tactical computers coordinated the entire assault with machine precision. When the battle was over, the largest Vorkath fleet ever assembled had been reduced to drifting organic matter. News of the victory spread quickly through the resistance networks, inspiring more species to join their cause. "A fine victory," Jaiho commented, watching the after-action reports. "But the Vorkath will adapt. They always do." "Let them try," Sun Mi replied, her cybernetic eyes gleaming. "Humanity spent centuries sleeping, Commander, but we didn't waste that time. Every ship, every soldier, every weapon was designed to be adaptable. The Vorkath may evolve, but we engineered ourselves to evolve faster." As if to prove her point, reports came in from the Apollo. They had already synthesized a virus that could turn the Vorkath's biological weapons against them. The Hyperion's medical teams had developed countermeasures to protect their allies. "The galaxy has lived in fear for too long," Sun Mi declared to the assembled resistance leaders. "The Vorkath thought they were the ultimate evolution of life in this galaxy. We're going to show them just how wrong they were." More ships were awakening every day. More allies were joining their cause. For the first time in centuries, the galaxy dared to hope. And at the center of it all stood Admiral Sun Mi, coordinating humanity's forces in a war they had never expected to fight, but were perfectly prepared to win. Dr. Tahyun stared at the holographic display of Vorkath's cellular structure floating before him in the research lab of the ECS Apollo. After months of studying samples from destroyed enemy ships, he had finally discovered something remarkable. Their entire biological matrix, he explained to Fleet Commander Minji, is held together by quantum-level bonds that they control through their hive mind. It's what makes their ships so resilient. And now it's their weakness. The fleet commander watched as he demonstrated his discovery using a captured piece of Vorkath tissue. When exposed to his modified quantum disruptor, the sample didn't just die. It unraveled at the molecular level, its very atomic structure coming apart in seconds. "Can we weaponize this?" Minji asked, her cybernetic combat systems already calculating potential applications. "Already done," Taehyun replied, leading her to the weapons testing chamber. "We've modified our quantum torpedoes to carry the disruptor sequence. One hit will start a chain reaction through their entire biological mass." The research team had worked tirelessly, combining human quantum technology with their understanding of Vorkath biology. The result was a weapon that could turn the enemy's greatest strength, their biological unity, into a fatal weakness. "Begin mass production immediately," Minji ordered. "I want every ship in the fleet equipped with these new weapons within the week." As the Apollo's fabrication plants began manufacturing the modified torpedoes, Minji coordinated with other fleet commanders. The resistance had grown powerful, with hundreds of liberated worlds contributing forces to the cause. The time had come to strike at the heart of Vorkath territory. "The first target will be their primary shipyard in the Carina sector," Minji announced to the assembled fleet captains. "Their ships aren't built, they're grown. Destroy the shipyard, and we cut off their ability to replace losses." The assault fleet gathered near the edge of Vorkath's face, a massive armada of human vessels and allied ships. Each had been equipped with Taehyun's new weapons, their crews trained in the most effective deployment methods. When they jumped into the Carina sector, the Vorkath were waiting. Hundreds of bioships moved to intercept them, their organic forms writhing with deadly purpose. But this time, the resistance was ready. "All ships, fire at will," Minji commanded. "Target their largest vessels first." The modified quantum torpedoes streaked across space, their warheads carrying Taehyun's molecular disruptors. When they struck the Vorkath ships, the effect was devastating. The massive biological vessels began to dissolve from within, their quantum bonds unraveling in cascading waves of destruction. "The shipyard is attempting to launch emergency defenses," her tactical officer reported. "Not today," Minji responded. "All ships, concentrate fire on the primary growth chambers." The combined firepower of the resistance fleet struck the shipyard. The modified quantum weapons triggered a chain reaction through the interconnected biological mass. Within minutes, the facility that had spawned countless Vorkath vessels was reduced to its component atoms. From his observation post aboard the Apollo, Taehyun watched his creation at work. "The disruptor effect is even more efficient than our simulations predicted," he noted. "Their entire biological network is susceptible." As news of the victory spread, more fleets began pushing into Vorkath territory. The enemy that had terrorized the galaxy for centuries was finally facing an opponent that could match their biological mastery with technological superiority. "Send word to Admiral Sunma," Minji ordered as they secured the sector. "The counterattack has begun, and this time we have the perfect weapon." The resistance fleet pressed forward, system by system, using Taehyun's weapons to unravel the Vorkath Empire at its most fundamental level. The Age of Terror was ending, undone by human ingenuity and the very biological nature that had made the Vorkath so powerful. General Hyunwoo stood on the bridge of the ECS Valiant, watching as the largest fleet ever assembled in galactic history moved into position around the Vorkath homeworld. Thousands of ships from hundreds of species formed an armada that stretched across the solar system. "All battle groups report ready," his tactical officer announced. "The Vorkath have concentrated their remaining forces around the capital." Through the view screen, Hyunwoo could see the massive organic structures that protected the planet. Supreme Commander Yongha had gathered every surviving Vorkath ship for this final defense. Their biovessels formed living walls of flesh and bone, prepared to die protecting their ancestral home. "Send the message one last time," Hyunwoo ordered. "Offer them the chance to surrender." The response came quickly. A stream of biological projectiles that splashed harmlessly against the fleet's shields. Yongha's answer was clear. The Vorkath would fight to the last. "Very well," Hyunwoo said grimly. "All ships, commence Operation Twilight." The battle began with a massive barrage of quantum torpedoes, all modified with Dr. Tahian's molecular disruptors. The Vorkath's outer defensive line began to unravel, their biological ships dissolving into clouds of atomic particles. But Yongha had prepared for this. New strains of bioships emerged from the planet's atmosphere, their structures modified to resist the disruptor effect. They crashed into the resistance fleet like living battering rams, trying to breach hulls and inject their corrosive spawn. "They've adapted," warned his second-in-command. "The disruptors aren't as effective against these new strains." Hyunwoo smiled. They had anticipated this. Launch the Phase 2 attack. Let's show them humanity's final surprise. From the holds of the human ships, swarms of microscopic robots were released, the culmination of centuries of nanotechnology. These tiny machines had been programmed with everything they had learned about Vorkath biology. They infiltrated the enemy ships through natural pores in their organic hulls, then began rewriting their genetic code from within. Yongha watched in horror from her neural throne as her ships began turning against each other. The nanites had infected their hive mind, causing mass confusion in their biological network. Some vessels started attacking their own allies, while others simply shut down, their vital systems corrupted. "All forces, push forward," Hyunwoo commanded. "Break their line." The resistance fleet surged forward, their weapons tearing through the disorganized Vorkath defenses. Allied ships from 100 worlds fought alongside human vessels, each contributing their unique abilities to the assault. Energy beams, plasma torpedoes, and quantum weapons lit up space with a deadly light show. Yongha made her final stand in orbit above the capital city. Her flagship, the largest bioship ever grown, fought with the desperation of a cornered animal. But even as she commanded her forces, she could feel the nanites spreading through her ship's systems, corrupting the biological controls that had given her species dominion over the galaxy. "Your reign is over," Hyunwoo transmitted to her ship. "End this now, and your people can survive." The Supreme Commander looked out at her burning world, at the remains of her once mighty fleet drifting in space. The resistance forces had surrounded the planet completely. There was nowhere left to run, no more ships to sacrifice. With a final, defiant roar, Yongha's flagship launched itself at the Valiant. Hyunwoo ordered all weapons to fire, and the massive bioship erupted in a spectacular display of quantum fire and biological matter. The last great leader of the Vorkath had chosen to die with her empire. As the remaining Vorkath ships surrendered one by one, Hyunwoo looked out at the liberated capital world. Centuries of tyranny had ended here, brought down by the combined might of a united galaxy and the ingenuity of humanity's long-sleeping warriors. "Send word to all sectors," he ordered. "The war is over. The Vorkath Empire has fallen." The cheers that erupted across the fleet were deafening. Species that had lived under Vorkath oppression for generations were finally free. As cleanup operations began around the planet, Hyunwoo knew that the real work, building a lasting peace, was just beginning. Chancellor Jinsu adjusted his ceremonial robes as he stepped onto the grand platform in the newly constructed Galactic Assembly. The massive chamber, built from the remnants of the former Vorkath Palace, now housed representatives from every free species in known space. Sunlight streamed through the crystalline dome above, symbolizing the new era of transparency and cooperation. "Friends, allies, fellow survivors," he began, his voice carrying across the hushed chamber. "Today we gather not just to celebrate victory, but to understand truth. The holographic displays activated, showing images of Earth as it had been 1,000 years ago. Jin Su watched the faces of the assembled delegates as they saw humanity's homeworld for the first time. We left Earth not by choice, but by necessity. Our scientists had detected an approaching cosmic event, a gamma-ray burst that would sterilize our solar system. We had decades to prepare, but nowhere to run. The displays showed the massive construction of the sleeper ships, each designed to carry millions of enhanced humans in cryo sleep. We developed weapons and technology to fight the radiation effects we expected to face when we awakened. We enhanced our bodies and minds to survive in what we believed would be a hostile universe. Instead, he continued, we slept through the danger, our ships drifting far beyond its reach. When we finally awoke, we found a galaxy suffering under a different kind of threat. The images shifted to scenes from the recent war, human ships fighting alongside alien vessels, combined forces liberating worlds from Vorkath control. Our weapons, designed to battle cosmic radiation, proved effective against biological terror. Our enhanced soldiers, meant to rebuild a dead world, became liberators of living ones. Jin Su gestured to the assembled representatives. Look around you. Every species here has a story of resistance, of sacrifice, of hope. The Vorkath tried to consume our differences. Instead, those differences became our strength. Construction droids entered the chamber, carrying a massive memorial stone. Names in 100 languages covered its surface, those who had fallen fighting the Vorkath, both human and alien. This coalition is built on more than victory, Jin Su declared. It is built on understanding. The Vorkath believed in consuming all life into one form. We believe in preserving all forms of life, in all their wonderful variety. He activated the final display, showing the reconstruction efforts across formerly Vorkath-controlled worlds. Human medical technology, originally designed to fight radiation sickness, was helping heal the biological damage left by years of Vorkath occupation. Defense systems meant to shield against cosmic rays now protected recovering planets. And what of the Vorkath themselves? He addressed the question many had asked. Those who surrendered will not be destroyed or imprisoned. They will be offered the chance to learn what we have learned. That strength comes not from dominance, but from cooperation. The chamber erupted in applause as Jin Su concluded his speech. Outside, the first rays of dawn broke over the capital city, where humans worked alongside a dozen species to rebuild what war had broken. The galaxy faces many challenges, he said finally, but we face them together. Humanity slept through one apocalypse only to help prevent another. Now we are awake, and we will stay awake, to ensure terror never again rules these stars. As the assembly dissolved into celebration, Jin Su looked out at the rising sun. Humanity had prepared for one future and found another. Their long sleep had ended in an unexpected battle, but their awakening had led to something greater than survival. It had led to unity.